One really useful thing that you can do to get better at writing for screens is stop writing for a minute and get your script on a screen. Writing for screens is kind of like playwriting, but also kind of like writing fiction, and also kind of like writing song lyrics, and also often kind of like writing instructions for putting together a collapsible tent. Because of this messy kinda like so many things, writing for screens is really not like any other kind of writing. And so it might be helpful for you to try this exercise. Shoot a couple of scenes. Okay, don't panic. I'm not talking about becoming a director or learning to make indie films. I am a big fan of DIY filmmaking, and I urge you to look into that, but this is something else entirely. This is private. No one else needs to see this. It's just an exercise for you to do for yourself, by yourself. It's about seeing what happens to your words when they go through the unique process of being performed and recorded. That process changes how your words work. Now, I know when I tell you that, you think, yeah, I got it, but you need to experience it. Experience teaches you things that you can't learn any other way. Like, nothing ever comes out like you imagine, and that's okay. In fact, it's not just okay, it's required. It's the reality of making art. Any work of art goes from abstract to concrete to abstract. It goes from one person's experience in their head to an object or performance to another person's experience in their head. And this happens even if both heads are yours. The creative head that makes it is different than the perceiving head that takes it in. And no one can predict or control the translations that happen when you go from one step to the next. You just have to experience it. A lot. Okay, so how do you do this? It's actually not that complicated. Just get a couple of people that you know to read a dialogue scene out loud doing the best they can and make a video of it on your phone. It's the most crude version, but it will work. You will learn something valuable about how you write dialogue and how you understand dramatic action and shaping a scene. If you happen to know some actors, great. If you want to try editing, great. But none of that is required. The point here is to get down to some basics, what they call in sports the fundamentals. I do not actually know anything about sports, but I've heard that in sports movies. In this case, those fundamentals are character, dramatic action, and making dialogue work. And that stuff actually is pretty evident even with non-actors in a non-production. The thing you're looking for here is those magic bits where characters actually start to talk to each other, where they are trying to get something from that moment. This will happen in even the most horrible productions, so look for those. But do you have to really video it? I mean, couldn't you just have some people read it and you listen? Unfortunately, you have to record it. Something about being recorded and played back changes your experience of it. Don't know why, but it's different than when you see it in the live moment. Now, if you are the type of person who only sees the worst in what you do and tears yourself to shreds all the time and only compares yourself to the godlike top-tier successes, you should still do this, but be aware. It will be garbage. It will be a billion miles away from anything professional, and that's fine. Nothing ever comes out like you imagine. Think of it like watching a school play. The basics of drama that are required to keep something interesting and convey character and tell a story actually kind of get brought forward when everything else is really badly done. Now, it's important to choose a dialogue scene. It can be hard to find a scene that's so basic you can do this with it. Most of the scenes in the scripts you've already written are going to require a fancy location, or some physical action, or too many people. So, I suggest write a scene or two just for this exercise. Write yourself a dialogue scene with just 2 or 3 people that centers on a dramatic action. Something with a beginning, middle, and end. Then write a good scene within those limits. Something funny or scary or suspenseful. Something with emotion. If you want to get into more advanced DIY filmmaking, start to learn how to produce or direct for yourself or find some collaborators who will DIY your stuff, that's for later. This is not about that. Don't do that now. And this is not a table read. Table reads are for productions. They're good for team building and for seeing how stuff you wrote works with a particular cast. They are not a good way to judge or understand scripts. Also, you should only do this exercise a couple of times. You should not do this with every script. It's just an experiment to teach you something. If you do this exercise right, it's kind of like the experience of catching sight of yourself in a mirror when you don't expect it. It's not a lot of fun, but if you can get past the shock, it will tell you some things that you ought to know. This is a weird, awkward, and sometimes painful exercise, but it is worth doing. Just look for the moment when something works, when something comes to life between the characters in your scenes. Alright, that's enough for now. Go write something. If you like this video, like this video and subscribe to this channel. Talk to me in the comments. Ask me questions. Tell me what you want to know. And if you want me to work with you on your project one-on-one, go to writingforscreens.com. Okay, see you next video. And get your script on... I don't like this at all. It's no good. And even kind of like often write right, fuck me. Think of it like a... We've got crows. We got crows outside. Someone is singing outside. Someone is just standing there singing. What is with the fucking singing?